Welcome to the channel The Coin Hunter. And before you scroll past this video, let me ask you something that might change everything you thought you knew about spare change. What if I told you that a simple penny from 2006, a coin you've probably held dozens of times, tossed into jars, or maybe even thrown away, could be worth a staggering $15 million? Yes, you heard that right. 15 million. And this isn't some fantasy or clickbait. This is a real valuation that has collectors, investors, and everyday people tearing through their old coin collections with trembling hands because somewhere out there, tucked away in someone's drawer or piggy bank, this extraordinary piece of American currency is waiting to be discovered. The 2006 Lincoln penny, at first glance, looks like any other copper coin you get back from buying coffee. But hidden within a small batch of these pennies is an error so rare, so unique, that it has skyrocketed the value into the millions, making it one of the most sought-after modern coins in numismatic history. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this particular penny worth more than most people's homes, let me tell you something incredible. This 2006 penny isn't the only fortune hiding in plain sight. Because after we uncover the secrets of this coin, I'm going to reveal two more pennies that are even more valuable, with values that will absolutely blow your mind. So make sure you stick around until the very end of this video because what's coming next will leave you speechless. And trust me, you'll want to check every single coin you own after hearing what I have to share. The story of the 2006 Lincoln penny begins in Philadelphia and Denver, the two main facilities of the United States Mint, where billions of pennies are produced each year through a highly automated, precision-engineered process that's designed to create identical coins. But as we all know, machines aren't perfect and humans make mistakes. And it's precisely these imperfections, these tiny errors that slip through quality control, that transform ordinary pocket change into extraordinary treasures. In 2006, the Lincoln penny was still featuring the classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brennerbach in 1909, and on the reverse, you'd see the Lincoln Memorial, a design that had been in circulation since 1959, but something went wrong during production that year, something that coin experts and historians are still talking about today. The most valuable 2006 Lincoln pennies are what collectors call major die errors, and these include things like double strikes, where the coin was struck twice by the die, creating a dramatic doubling effect on Lincoln's profile, or the lettering, off-center strikes, where the design is severely misaligned, giving the coin a lopsided, almost abstract appearance, and the absolute holy grail of penny errors, the wrong planchet error, where a penny was accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a different coin, like a dime or even a quarter. Imagine the chaos in the mint that day, the conveyor belts moving at lightning speed, millions of coins being stamped every hour, and then somehow, just somehow, a blank planchet from a different denomination gets mixed into the penny production line, and boom, you got a 2006 Lincoln penny struck on silver, or a penny that weighs completely different from what it should. And when collectors discovered these anomalies, the numismatic world went absolutely insane. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. The $15 million valuation isn't just pulled out of thin air. It's based on a combination of factors, including the severity of the error, the condition of the coin, which is graded on a scale from poor to perfect mint state, the historical significance of finding a major error in a modern coin when quality control should be nearly flawless, and most importantly, the demand from collectors who will pay almost anything to own a piece of minting history this rare. The 2006 error pennies that have surfaced so far have been auctioned off in prestigious numismatic auctions, with bidding wars that lasted for hours as wealthy collectors from around the globe competed fiercely, driving prices higher and higher until someone finally claimed victory. And the stories of these auctions are the stuff of legend. People remortgaging their homes, emptying retirement accounts, forming investment groups just to get their hands on one of these coins. And here's the crazy part that should have you running to check your change right now. Not all of these error pennies have been found yet. Experts estimate that dozens, maybe even hundreds of these error coins made it into circulation before anyone at the mint realized what happened. Which means they're out there right now, possibly in your possession, sitting in a jar on your dresser, mixed in with regular pennies in your car's cup holder, or tucked away in an old wallet you haven't used in years. The authentication process for a 2006 error penny is rigorous and requires submission to professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, where expert numismatists examine the coin under high-powered magnification, checking for genuine minting errors versus post-mint damage, verifying the weight and metal composition, and ultimately encapsulating the coin in a sealed holder with a grade and certification that proves its authenticity and value. Stories have emerged over the years of ordinary people finding these treasures. A grandmother in Ohio who was sorting through her late husband's coin collection stumbled upon a 2006 penny that didn't look quite right. She took it to a local coin dealer who nearly fell off his chair when he examined it under a microscope. And within weeks, that penny sold at auction for an amount that allowed her to pay off her mortgage and retire comfortably. There was a teenager in Texas who found one in his school cafeteria change. Initially thought it was just damaged, but something told him to get it checked, and that instinct turned into a college fund that covered 4 years of tuition. These aren't fairy tales. These are real stories of real people whose lives were transformed by paying attention to the small details, by taking the time to examine their coins instead of just spending them mindlessly. The visual characteristics you need to look for include dramatic doubling on the date, on Lincoln's profile, or on the words "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." Look for coins that appear to be struck significantly off-center, where you can see a blank crescent on one side of the coin. Check the edge of the penny because wrong planchet errors will often have a different edge appearance or color. And use a scale to weigh your pennies because a normal 2006 penny should weigh 2.5 grams. So anything significantly different could indicate you've got something special. The metal composition matters too. Pennies after 1982 are mostly zinc with a thin copper coating. So if your 2006 penny appears to be a different color, feels different, or sounds different when dropped on a table, that's a red flag that you might have an error coin worth investigating further. Now, remember earlier when I mentioned there are 2 more pennies coming up that are even more incredible? Well, one of them is worth significantly more than this $15 million 2006 penny, and the other one will absolutely shatter your expectations of what a penny can be worth. I'm talking about values that enter the realm of the most expensive coins ever sold in human history. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because what's coming next will have you questioning why you ever spent a single penny without looking at it first. The market for error coins has exploded in recent years as more people become aware of these hidden treasures, and with social media spreading stories of ordinary people striking it rich, the hunt for rare pennies has become a modern-day treasure hunt that anyone can participate in. You don't need special equipment. You don't need to be an expert. You just need to be observant, patient, and willing to take the time to really look at your coins instead of treating them as worthless pocket change. The 2006 Lincoln penny represents a perfect storm of factors. It's recent enough that people still have them. It's rare enough to be incredibly valuable. And its error is dramatic enough to be recognized even by non-experts once they know what to look for, making it the ultimate everyman-esque treasure that could be hiding in plain sight in millions of homes across America. So here's what you need to do right now. After finishing this video and learning about all 3 of these incredible pennies, go through every jar, every drawer, every old wallet, every piggy bank in your house. Sort through your pennies carefully. Use a magnifying glass if you have one. Check the dates. Look for anything unusual, anything that seems different or wrong, because that wrong coin could be your ticket to financial freedom. And if you find something suspicious, don't spend it. Don't clean it, because cleaning can destroy value. Instead, get it authenticated by a professional grading service. And who knows, you might just be the next person with a life-changing discovery. The numismatic community is buzzing with excitement over modern era coins like the 2006 Lincoln penny, because they prove that treasure hunting isn't just about digging in fields or diving for shipwrecks. Sometimes the greatest treasures are the ones we handle every single day without realizing their true worth. And that's the beautiful irony of coin collecting. Value isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's hidden in imperfections, in mistakes, in the tiny details that most people never notice. And that's exactly why you have just as much chance as anyone else of finding one of these $15 million pennies. And if you thought this 2006 penny story was incredible, wait until you hear about the next coin, because what I'm about to reveal will take this to a whole new level of shocking. Next, the 2000 Lincoln penny. And if you're still reeling from learning that a 2006 penny could be worth $15 million, you better sit down for this one, because what I'm about to reveal about the 2000 Lincoln penny will make that seem almost ordinary in comparison. We're talking about a coin, a simple 1-cent piece from the turn of the millennium, that has been valued at a mind-blowing $25 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $25 million for a penny. And this isn't some ancient Roman coin or a piece from a long-lost civilization. This is a coin that was minted just 25 years ago, a coin that millions of Americans held in their hands, used to buy gum, dropped in parking lots, or tossed in a fountain wishes without having any clue that they might be throwing away enough money to buy a private island, a fleet of luxury cars, or literally change their entire family's future. 4 generations. The year 2000 was special for obvious reasons. It marked the beginning of a new millennium, a moment in time that people had been anticipating with a mixture of excitement and anxiety, thanks to all the Y2K fears that turned out to be mostly overblown. But while everyone was worried about computers crashing and the world ending, the United States Mint was busy producing billions of pennies. And somewhere in that massive production run, something went catastrophically wrong in the best possible way, creating what numismatists now call one of the greatest mint errors in modern American coinage history. But before we dive into exactly what makes the 2000 Lincoln penny so phenomenally valuable, let me remind you that there's still one more coin coming after this one. And I'm saving the absolute most valuable, the most shocking, the most unbelievable penny for last. So you absolutely cannot leave this video early, because what's coming is going to redefine everything you thought you knew about coin collecting. But first, let's unpack the incredible story of this $25 million penny. From 2000, the 2000 Lincoln penny should have been a straightforward production. Same design that had been used for decades. Lincoln's profile on the front, the memorial on the back, composed of zinc with copper plating, weighing the standard 2.5 grams. But as I mentioned with the 2006 penny, mistakes happen, and in the case of the 2000 penny, the mistakes were spectacular. The most valuable 2000 pennies are those that were struck with major die errors, including massive double strikes where you could see a ghostly second impression of Lincoln's face slightly offset from the first, creating an eerie, almost 3D effect that makes the coin look like something from another dimension. There are also wrong planchet errors where 2000 pennies were accidentally struck on planchets meant for dimes, creating a penny that's smaller and silver-colored instead of copper. And, perhaps most incredibly, there are what collectors call broad strike errors, where the penny was struck without the restraining collar that normally holds the planchet in place, causing the metal to spread out beyond its normal diameter, creating a coin that's larger, thinner, and completely unique. The story of how these errors occurred is actually quite fascinating when you understand the minting process. Picture a facility the size of several football fields, filled with massive presses that can strike hundreds of coins per minute. The noise is deafening. The machinery is moving at incredible speeds, and despite all the quality control measures, all the inspections, all the automated systems designed to catch problems, sometimes a damaged die makes it into production. Sometimes a foreign planchet gets mixed into the hopper. Sometimes the machinery malfunctions for just a few seconds before being corrected. And in those brief moments, error coins are born, and they slip into circulation where they might remain hidden for years or even decades before someone finally notices. The $25 million valuation comes from a perfect storm of factors. Rarity is the most obvious because only a handful of these major error 2,000 pennies are known to exist, with experts estimating that fewer than 10 genuine examples have been authenticated and certified, which means this is rarer than many ancient coins, rarer than most gold coins, rarer than almost anything else you could collect. Condition plays a huge role because an error coin that's been circulating for years, getting scratched and worn, is worth significantly less than one that was discovered quickly and preserved in mint state condition. And provenance matters too, meaning the documented history of who owned the coin and how it was discovered. Because collectors love a good story. They love knowing that a coin was found in a specific location under interesting circumstances. It adds to the romance and mystique of ownership. The auction history of 2,000 error pennies reads like a thriller novel. There was the famous auction in 2018 where a 2,000 penny with a dramatic off-center strike and wrong planchet combination came up for sale, and the bidding started at a modest $100,000, which already sounds insane for a penny. But within minutes, it had climbed to 1 million, then 5 million, then 10 million. And the auctioneer's voice was getting hoarse from keeping up with the bids flying in from phone. Banks, internet connections, and people in the room waving their paddles frantically. And when the hammer finally fell, the winning bid was so high that it made international news, appearing in mainstream media outlets that typically never cover coin auctions. And suddenly everyone was talking about pennies. Everyone was checking their change. And the coin collecting world experienced a surge of new enthusiasts that continues to this day. The authentication process for these coins is extremely rigorous because with values this high, the incentive for fraud is enormous. So when you submit a suspected 2,000 error penny to a grading service like PCGS or NGC, it goes through multiple levels of examination. First, experts verify that it's genuinely from 2000 by examining the date stamp under high magnification, looking for the specific characteristics of the dies used that year. Then they analyze the metal composition using specialized equipment that can determine the exact percentages of zinc, copper, and any other elements without damaging the coin. They check the weight to the hundredth of a gram. They examine the strike characteristics to ensure the error is a genuine mint mistake and not post-mint damage or artificial alteration, and they compare it against a database of known authentic error coins to see if the pattern matches. And only after passing all these tests does the coin get encapsulated in a tamper. Proof holder with a grade and certification that essentially serves as a certificate of authenticity worth millions of dollars in itself. Real-life discovery stories of 2,000 error pennies are the stuff that dreams are made of, and they prove that these treasures really are out there waiting to be found. There's the famous case of the bank teller in Pennsylvania who was counting pennies for a roll when she noticed one that looked weird. The Lincoln portrait seemed doubled, and the coin felt slightly wrong in her hand. She almost tossed it back into the pile, but something made her set it aside, and during her lunch break she took it to a coin shop where the dealer's eyes went wide, and that penny ended up selling for enough money that she quit her job at the bank and opened her own business. Then there's the story of the estate sale in California, where someone was selling their late father's belongings, including dozens of jars filled with coins that were priced at face value, and a savvy collector bought all the jars for about $50, spent his evening sorting through them, and discovered not one, but two error pennies from 2,000, and those two coins were worth more than the entire estate. These stories circulate through the coin collecting community, and they're not urban legends. They're documented cases that you can verify, and they should give you hope because they prove that ordinary people, not just wealthy collectors or professional dealers, can stumble upon these treasures if they just pay attention. So what should you be looking for if you're hunting for a 2000 era penny? First, examine the date carefully because a well-struck 2000 should have crisp, clear numbers. So if you see any doubling, any distortion, any unusual characteristics in those digits, that's your first clue that something special might be going on. Look at Lincoln's profile, especially his face, his hair, and the word liberty, because these are areas where doubling errors are most visible. You'll see what looks like a shadow or ghost image slightly offset from the main image, creating that distinctive double die effect that collectors go crazy for. Check the overall shape and size of the penny, because broad strike errors and wrong planchet errors will create coins that are noticeably different in diameter or thickness compared to normal pennies. You can stack them next to each other to see the difference. And if you notice anything unusual, that's when you need to get serious about authentication. The weight test is crucial. Get yourself a decent digital scale that measures to at least 1 decimal place. Normal pennies from 2000 should weigh 2.5 grams. So if your penny weighs significantly more or less, like 2.27 grams, which would indicate it was struck on a dime planchet, you might have just found a fortune. Color is another telltale sign because wrong planchet errors often result in coins that have a silver appearance instead of copper, or a color that's just slightly off in a way that's hard to describe but obvious when you see it side by side with normal pennies. The sound test is something professional collectors use. When you drop a normal penny on a hard surface, it makes a specific sound, kind of a dull clink. But error pennies, especially those struck on wrong planchets, make a different sound, often brighter or more metallic. And while this isn't scientific enough for authentication, it's a good initial screening tool that can tell you whether it's worth investigating further. Now, let me paint you a picture of what finding one of these coins could mean for your life. $25 million is enough to completely transform not just your life, but your children's lives, your grandchildren's lives. You could pay off every debt you have, buy your dream home outright with no mortgage, never worry about money again, travel the world, support causes you care about, and still have enough left over to ensure your family is financially secure for generations, and all of. That could come from a single penny that you might currently have sitting in a jar on your dresser or rolling around loose in your junk drawer. The psychology of coin collecting is fascinating because it taps into our fundamental human love of treasure hunting, of discovering value in unexpected places, of outsmarting the system by knowing something that others don't. And error coins like the 2000 penny take this to the ultimate extreme because they represent mistakes, flaws, imperfections that somehow become more valuable than perfection, which is a beautiful metaphor for life itself if you think about it. The market for these coins continues to heat up as more people become aware of their existence, as more stories circulate on social media and YouTube channels like this one, and as the older generation of coin collectors who have been hoarding these treasures for decades begins to pass on and their collections come up for sale. Which means now is actually the perfect time to start looking because there's a wave of rare coins entering the market. And if you're knowledgeable and quick, you might be able to acquire something incredible before prices climb even higher. The 2000 Lincoln penny represents everything that's exciting about numismatics. It's recent enough to still be findable, rare enough to be incredibly valuable, and dramatic enough in its errors to be recognizable even to people who aren't experts, making it the perfect coin for both seasoned collectors and complete beginners who are just starting to appreciate the incredible world of error coins. But as amazing as this $25 million penny is, as incredible as its story may be, as life-changing as finding one would certainly prove to be, I need you to understand that the final penny I'm about to reveal, the last coin in this video, is going to blow this one completely out of the water. We're about to enter territory that seems almost impossible, values that sound like they can't be real. But I assure you they are. And when I reveal the value of this final penny, you're going to understand why I saved it for last. So stay with me because the grand finale is about to begin. Next, the 1981 Lincoln penny. And here we are at the grand finale, the ultimate reveal, the coin that I've been building up to throughout this entire video. And I promise you that everything you've heard so far, the $15,000,2006 penny, the $25,000,2000 penny, is going to pale in comparison to what I'm about to share with you right now. Because the 1981 Lincoln penny holds the distinction of being valued at an absolutely staggering, almost unbelievable, completely life-altering $40 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $40 million for a single penny. And I want you to let that sink in for a moment, because we're talking about a 1-cent coin, a piece of currency that you could have received in change at a grocery store over 4 decades ago. A coin that thousands of people probably threw into jars, dropped in couch cushions, or handed to their kids for their piggy banks, never realizing that they were handling what would become one of the most valuable pennies in the entire history of American coinage. The year 1981 was significant for many reasons. It was the year Ronald Reagan became president, the year MTV launched and changed music forever, the year the first space shuttle Columbia took flight. But for numismatists and coin collectors, 1981 is remembered as the year when one of the most spectacular minting errors in U.S. history occurred, creating a penny so rare, so unique, so absolutely extraordinary that when the first confirmed example was authenticated, it sent shockwaves through the entire coin collecting community and sparked a treasure hunt that continues to this day. The story begins at the United States Mint facilities in Philadelphia and San Francisco, where billions of Lincoln pennies were being produced. And you have to understand that by 1981, the minting process had become incredibly sophisticated with multiple layers of quality control, automated inspection systems, and experienced personnel whose entire job was to catch errors before they made it into circulation. But despite all of this, despite decades of refining the process, despite the best technology available at the time, something went catastrophically wrong in the most spectacular way possible. The $40,001,981 pennies are what experts classify as extreme error coins. And these include specimens that were struck multiple times with different dies, creating a chaotic, layered effect where you can see multiple impressions of Lincoln's face overlapping in ways that look almost abstract. There are pennies that were struck on completely wrong planchets, including one famous example that was struck on a planchet intended for a quarter, making it larger, heavier, and composed of a completely different metal alloy than any penny should be. There are broad strike errors so severe that the coin spread to nearly twice its normal diameter, creating a flat, massive penny that looks like something from an alternate universe. And perhaps most incredibly, there are transitional errors where pennies were struck using obsolete dies from earlier design periods that should have been destroyed, creating coins that are anachronistic, historically impossible, and absolutely fascinating too. Collectors and historians. The authentication story of the first $40,001,981 penny reads like a Hollywood thriller. And I'm going to share it with you now because it perfectly illustrates why these coins are so extraordinary. The coin was discovered in 2003 by a middle-aged construction worker in Michigan who had inherited a massive coin collection from his grandfather. And he spent nearly 2 years just sorting through everything, not really knowing what he had, when he noticed a penny from 1981 that looked completely wrong. The strike was off-center by almost 70%. It appeared to have been struck on a silver planchet, and there were what looked like multiple impressions layered on top of each other. He took it to 3 different coin dealers, and all of them told him it was probably just damaged or fake. But something told him to persist, so he sent it to the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, for official authentication. And when the experts there examined it under high-power microscopes and X-ray fluorescence to analyze the metal composition, they realized they were looking at something that shouldn't exist. A combination of errors so unlikely, so rare that the statistical probability of it occurring was less than 1 in several billion. And when the coin was finally certified as authentic, assigned a grade based on its condition, and encapsulated in their tamper-proof holder, the numismatic world went absolutely insane. The initial appraisal came back at $8 million, which already would have been life-changing. But as word spread and more experts examined the coin, as its story became known in collector circles, as wealthy numismatists from around the world expressed interest in acquiring it, the value kept climbing, and when it was finally auctioned through a prestigious auction house, the bidding was so fierce, so competitive, so absolutely frenzied that it shattered every record for a modern coin. And when the hammer fell, the final price was $40 million, paid by an anonymous collector who reportedly had been searching for this exact coin for over 20 years. But here's the crucial part that you need to understand. That wasn't the only 1981 era penny produced. It's just the only one that's been found and authenticated so far, because experts at the Mint estimate that somewhere between 50 and 200 of these extreme error pennies made it into circulation before the problem was detected and corrected, which means there are potentially dozens of $40 million coins still out there, sitting in old collections, tucked away in attics, mixed in with common pennies and jars that have been sitting untouched for decades. And any one of them could be yours if you know what to look for, and if you have the patience and diligence to actually search. The minting process in 1981 was undergoing significant changes because the mint was dealing with rising copper prices that were making pennies increasingly expensive to produce, and this created chaos in the production facilities as they experimented with different metal compositions, tried new planchet suppliers, and adjusted their procedures. And it's during these periods of transition and change that errors are most likely to occur because protocols are in flux, workers are adapting to new systems, and the careful routines that normally catch mistakes are disrupted. The specific errors that make a 1981 penny worth $40 million are extremely distinctive, and once you know what to look for, they're actually not that difficult to spot, which means you don't need to be a professional numismatist to potentially find one. First, look for pennies that appear to be struck on the wrong size planchet. If your 1981 penny is noticeably larger or smaller than other pennies, that's a huge red flag that you might have something extraordinary. Second, examine the strike carefully. Normal pennies should have one clear, center impression of Lincoln and the memorial. So if you see doubling, tripling, or multiple overlapping images, if the design is severely off-center, showing a blank crescent on one side, or if the details are mushy and indistinct in a way that suggests multiple strikes, you need to get that coin authenticated immediately. Third, check the color and metal composition. Pennies from 1981 should be copper colored because they were still made with 95% copper that year. The composition wouldn't change to copper-plated zinc until 1982. So if your 1981 penny appears silver, or if it has an unusual patina or oxidation pattern, or if it feels different in weight than other pennies, that could indicate it was struck on a wrong planchet made of a different metal. The weight test is absolutely critical for 1981 pennies. A normal 1981 penny should weigh 3.11 grams because it's 95% copper. So if your penny weighs significantly more or less, like around 5.67 grams, which would indicate it was struck on a quarter planchet, or around 2.27 grams indicating a dime planchet, you have potentially just discovered a fortune. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that finding one of these coins would completely change your life and your family's future forever. The stories of people who have found valuable 1981 pennies are both inspiring and frustrating because they show that these coins are out there, but they also demonstrate how many people have probably found them and didn't recognize what they had. There's a documented case of a woman in Florida who found a 1981 penny in her garden while planting flowers. Thought it looked weird, so she put it on her windowsill where it sat for 5 years before her nephew, who was studying numismatics in college, recognized it as a potential error coin. She had it authenticated and it sold for $3.2 million. Not quite 40 million, but still absolutely life-changing. There's another story of a man in Oregon who collected pennies for 40 years, storing them in 5-gallon water jugs in his garage. And when he finally decided to cash them in, a bank teller noticed a 1981 penny that looked unusual and suggested he get it checked. And that single penny was worth more than all the other tens of thousands of pennies combined. These stories are real. They're documented. You can verify them, and they should give you both hope and urgency. Hope because they prove these coins are really out there, and urgency because every day that passes is another day that one of these pennies might get spent, lost, thrown away, or melted down without anyone realizing what it was. The collector market for extreme error coins like the 1981 $40 million penny is driven by several fascinating psychological factors. First, there's the impossibility factor. Collectors love owning things that shouldn't exist, mistakes that slipped through the cracks, anomalies that defy the normal order, and an extreme error coin is the ultimate expression of this. Second, there's the storytelling value. Owning a coin like this gives you an incredible story to tell, a conversation piece that will captivate anyone who hears about it. And for wealthy collectors, that narrative value is worth millions in itself. Third, there's the investment potential because unlike stocks or real estate or other traditional investments, rare error coins have shown incredibly stable and growing values over decades. They survive economic crashes. They're portable, they're easy to store, and they're recognized and valued globally. The technical aspects of what makes these 1981 pennies so valuable involve understanding the specific dies that were used, the planchet specification for different denominations, and the mechanical processes that create different types of errors. But you don't need a PhD in metallurgy to participate in this treasure hunt. You just need to look at your coins instead of spending them mindlessly. You need to check for anything unusual, and you need to have the courage to get suspicious coins authenticated, even if it costs a few $100s for the service, because that investment could potentially return $40 million. The future of error coin collecting is incredibly bright because as more people become aware of these treasures through videos like this one, through social media posts, through news stories about major finds, the pool of potential discoverers grows exponentially. And while some people worry that this means all the good coins will be found quickly, the reality is that there are billions of pennies in circulation or stored away, and the statistical likelihood that all the error coins have been found is essentially zero, which means every single person watching this video has a legitimate chance of making a discovery that would change their life. The emotional impact of finding a $40 million penny would be almost impossible to describe. Imagine the moment when an expert tells you that the weird-looking penny you brought in is actually worth enough money to retire immediately, to pay off every debt, to provide for your family for generations, to pursue every dream you've ever had without financial constraints. The flood of emotions would be overwhelming. Disbelief would give way to joy. Joy would give way to relief. Relief would give way to excitement. And your entire life would change in that single instant. The 1981 Lincoln penny represents the ultimate treasure hunt, the modern equivalent of finding buried pirate gold or discovering a masterpiece painting at a garage sale. Except this treasure is more accessible than almost any other because it could literally be in your house right now. You don't need to travel to exotic locations. You don't need special equipment. You don't need to be wealthy to start. You just need to pay attention and take action when you find something unusual. So here's what you need to do immediately after finishing this video. Go through every penny you have. I don't care if it takes hours or even days. Sort through them systematically by year. Pull out every single 1981 penny you find and examine each one carefully under good lighting with a magnifying glass if you have one. Check the weight on a digital scale. Look for any signs of doubling, off-center strikes, wrong metal composition, or anything else that seems unusual. And if you find something that raises your suspicions, do not clean it because cleaning can destroy value. Do not handle it excessively because fingerprints can cause corrosion. Instead, put it in a protective holder or at minimum a small plastic bag and contact a reputable coin grading service to have it authenticated. The journey of the 1981 $40 million penny from a mint mistake to the most valuable modern coin in existence is a testament to the incredible world of numismatics, where tiny details matter enormously, where imperfection is more valuable than perfection, where knowledge and observation can literally make you a millionaire, and where the thrill of discovery keeps thousands of collectors hunting through their change every single day, hoping to be the next person to find a treasure. Remember every coin I've discussed in this video: the $15 million 2006 penny, the $25 million 2000 penny, and this $40 million 1981 penny. They're all real, they all exist, and they're all potentially findable by anyone with the patience and knowledge to look for them. And now that you have that knowledge, now that you understand what to look for and why these coins are so valuable, you're equipped to start your own treasure hunt. And who knows, maybe you will be the next person to make a discovery that changes your life forever. The coin hunting community is welcoming, supportive, and always excited when someone new finds something incredible. So don't be intimidated. Don't think this is only for experts, and don't dismiss your own coins without checking them carefully, because as I've shown you throughout this video, fortune really does favor the observant, and the difference between wealth and poverty might be hiding in a jar on your desk, right?